Los Angeles, in 1969. It was a place of endless sun and limitless dreams. The air itself seemed to vibrate with promise. Hollywood was the center of this universe, a magical kingdom where anyone could become a star. The 1960s had been a decade of change, of music, of art, of a new kind of freedom. People felt hopeful. They believed in peace and love. It was the summer of love, sort of extended into a golden age. The city was filled with beautiful people, driving beautiful cars, on their way to beautiful parties. It was a time of innocence, or so it seemed, a time before the shadows grew long. In this bright, shining city lived a bright, shining star. Her name was Sharon Tate. She was an actress. But she was more than that. She was a symbol of the era. With her stunning looks and gentle spirit, she captured the heart of Hollywood. She had worked hard to build her career. Film by film, she was becoming a major name. She was married to a famous director, Roman Polanski. They were the it couple. The ones everyone wanted to be. Their future looked as bright as the California sun. She was on the verge of superstardom. Sharon was also expecting a baby. She was 8.5 months pregnant. This new chapter was filled with excitement and joy. She was preparing a nursery. She was getting ready for motherhood. Her friends said she had never been happier. She was nesting, waiting for her husband to return from Europe. Her life was a picture of perfect happiness. A Hollywood fairy tale come true. She represented everything that was good and hopeful about that time. A beautiful life, just about to bloom in a city built on happy endings. But in the hidden corners of this sunny paradise, something dark was festering. A different kind of dream was taking shape. One not of love, but of hate. Not of peace, but of violence. The City of Angels was unaware. It continued to celebrate. It continued to dream. The parties went on. The music played. But a storm was gathering, and it was about to break over the Golden City. The innocence that defined an entire generation was hanging by a thread that was about to be cut. The house sat on a winding road called Cielo Drive, 10,050 Cielo Drive. It was secluded, nestled in the Benedict Canyon Hills, a rustic ranch-style home. It felt like a country retreat, far from the city's noise, but it was just minutes from the heart of Beverly Hills. The house had a history. Other famous people had lived there before. It was a house with a certain mystique. For Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski, it was their home, their sanctuary, a place where they could escape the pressures of fame, a place they thought was safe. On that fateful August night, Roman Polanski was away in London, working on a film. Sharon was not alone though. She had invited friends to stay with her, to keep her company. There was Jay Sebring, a famous celebrity hairstylist. He was a close friend, and a former boyfriend. There was Wojciech Frykowski, a friend of Polanski's from Poland. He was an aspiring writer. And his girlfriend, Abigail Folger. She was the heiress to a coffee fortune. They were all part of the glamorous Hollywood scene, young, successful, and full of life. Also at the house was a young man named Stephen Parent. He was just 18 years old. He wasn't part of the Hollywood crowd. He had simply been visiting the property's caretaker, who lived in a small guest cottage. Stephen was a recent high school graduate. He had a passion for electronics. He had his whole life ahead of him. That night, he was in the wrong place at the very worst time. He was just leaving the property, driving down the long driveway, when his path crossed with darkness. He was the first to encounter the horror that was coming up the hill. The house on Cielo Drive was a picture of tranquility. The guests had enjoyed a quiet dinner at a Mexican restaurant earlier that evening. Now, they were settled in for the night. The lights of Los Angeles twinkled below them. The air was warm. It was just another peaceful summer evening in the hills. Inside, a pregnant movie star and her friends rested. They had no idea that their home, their safe place, was about to become a scene of unimaginable terror. They had no idea that their lives were about to end in the most brutal way imaginable. Far from the glamour of Beverly Hills, out in the dusty California desert, lived a different kind of group. They called themselves the Family. Their leader was a man named Charles Manson. He was a small man with a powerful, mesmerizing gaze. He had spent most of his life in prison. He was a failed musician, a con man, But to his followers he was a guru, a prophet, even a god. He preached a strange mix of philosophies, part hippie-free love, part apocalyptic scripture. He promised them a new world. Manson's followers were mostly young men and women. They were runaways, drifters, people searching for a place to belong. They were lost souls, and Manson found them. He offered them acceptance. He gave them a purpose, but his control was absolute. He used drugs like LSD to break down their minds. He used fear and manipulation to keep them loyal. He told them that a race war was coming. He called it Helter Skelter, a name he took from a Beatles song. He said the family would survive the chaos and rule the world that was left behind. But Helter Skelter wasn't happening fast enough for Manson. He grew impatient. He decided he needed to show Blackie how to do it. He needed to start the war himself. His plan was twisted. He would commit a series of shocking, brutal murders in wealthy, white neighborhoods. He believed the authorities would blame black revolutionaries. This, he thought, would ignite the race war he so desperately wanted. The murders had to be savage. They had to be terrifying. They had to send a message. So, on the night of August 8, 1969, Manson gathered his chosen disciples. He gave them their orders. He chose 4 of his most devoted followers. Media group mugshots or archival photos of Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian. 1960s police lineup a stock would distribute equally. Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian. He told Tex Watson to go to the house on Cielo Drive, the house where a record producer who had rejected Manson once lived. He told them to destroy everyone inside, to be as gruesome as possible. He gave them knives and a gun, and then he sent them off into the night, to start Helter Skelter. The 4 followers arrived at Cielo Drive just after midnight. It was dark. It was quiet. Tex Watson climbed a telephone pole and cut the phone lines to the house. As they crept onto the property, a car's headlights appeared. It was 18-year-old Stephen Parent, driving away. Watson stopped the car. He raised the gun. Stephen Parent begged for his life. He said, "Please don't hurt me. I won't say anything." Watson didn't listen. He shot the young man 4 times. The first life was taken. The night of terror had begun. The killers then entered the main house. They found Wojciech Frykowski sleeping on the living room couch. They woke him. He asked who they were. "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business," Watson replied. The horror escalated quickly. They rounded up the others, Abigail Folger, Jay Sebring, and the heavily pregnant Sharon Tate. They gathered them all in the living room. The victims were terrified, confused. They tied a rope around Jay Sebring's neck and threw it over a ceiling beam, connecting it to Sharon Tate. The violence that followed was pure savagery. When Jay Sebring protested the rough treatment of the pregnant Sharon, Watson shot him. Then, he stabbed him multiple times. Chaos erupted. Wojciech Frykowski and Abigail Folger managed to break free. They fought for their lives. They ran outside, screaming for help. But they were hunted down on the lawn, stabbed again and again. It was a frenzy of unbelievable brutality. They were shown no mercy. Their fight for survival ended in the darkness of the garden. Back inside the house, only Sharon Tate remained. She pleaded for the life of her unborn child. She begged them to take her with them, to let her have her baby, and then kill her. Her pleas were ignored. The killers, following Manson's orders, showed no pity. They murdered her with the same cold-blooded viciousness. Before they left, Susan Atkins took a towel soaked in Sharon's blood. She used it to write the word pig on the front door. They left the house of horrors and vanished back into the night, leaving behind a scene of carnage that would haunt the world. The next morning, the world woke up to the news. The headlines were shocking, the details horrific. The city of Los Angeles was gripped by fear. No one felt safe. If this could happen in a secluded mansion in Beverly Hills, it could happen anywhere. Gun stores sold out. People bought guard dogs. The rich and famous hired bodyguards. The easy, trusting spirit of the 1960s vanished overnight. The doors that had always been open were now locked and bolted. The dream of a peaceful, loving generation had been murdered along with the victims. The fear only grew when, the very next night, another brutal murder took place. A wealthy couple, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, were killed in their home across town. The scene was just as gruesome. Words were written in blood on the walls. Death to pigs, rise, and helter skelter, misspelled. The city was on the edge of panic. Were these random acts? Was a cult on the loose? The police were baffled. They didn't connect the two crime scenes at first. For months, the investigation went nowhere. The city held its breath, waiting for the killers to strike again. The break in the case came from an unlikely source. Months later, Susan Atkins, in jail on an unrelated charge, began to brag. She told her cellmate about the murders, about the night on Cielo Drive. The cellmate went to the authorities, and just like that, the pieces started to fit together. The investigation finally had a target: Charles Manson and his family. The police descended on their desert hideout. One by one, the killers were arrested. The mystery was solved, but the horror was far from over. The trial was a media circus. It was as bizarre as the crimes themselves. Manson and his followers laughed, sang, and carved swastikas into their foreheads. They showed no remorse, but in the end, justice was served. They were all found guilty, sentenced to death, which was later commuted to life in prison. But the verdict couldn't undo the damage. The murders marked a turning point. They were the brutal, bloody end to the 1960s. The age of innocence was over. Hollywood and America had lost something that night: a sense of hope, a sense of safety, and it would never be the same again.